Hi, Roy here from my channel, Roy Reads Anything, which is about old books that are strange, interesting, or just weird. And if this doesn't look like my usual surroundings, that's because we are in a motel room on a journey. Not actually the happiest of journeys for why we're doing it, but in amidst the life things, we've done some stuff which has been kind of cool. So we drove here on the motorway of pulp that I talked about in the previous video. So that was good, and we can certainly attest to its good drivability. So the roads with crushed pulp novels in them certainly seem to be a good choice for your civil engineering needs. We also stopped off at a place called Nyman's Gardens. So this is a National Trust property, one of those stately manors that you hear about on BookTube, more famous for its gardens really. And one thing that the National Trust have in lots of their places is second-hand books. So even Dr. Jenny thinks that's a good thing. I did not in any sense trick Jenny into driving me to a source of second-hand books. No, we had a nice lunch, little wander in the garden, and there, like a beautiful mirage, was a sort of hut with books in it. And this is just a little book haul video really, when I'm going to tell you what I found in that place. So, diving in. King Kong, a paperback of the King Kong novelisation from the 1960s. It's a corgi book. It's, yeah, so I'd always thought there was a King Kong novel written by Edgar Wallace, and they based the film on that. Not quite the case. I think Edgar Wallace, who was a prolific thriller writer, was involved in the cinema script, and then there's this novelisation of, as it says, one of the most famous films of all time, King Kong, taller than a 5-story building, able to crush an aeroplane with his bare hands, ruler of a lost empire of prehistoric monsters. So I think I've read this, but it's a bit of a case of every home should have one. A giant ape novel, preferably King Kong, original and best. Also, a couple of crime books. So, The Case of the Sleepwalker's Niece by Stanley Gardner is, as it says, it's a Penguin Perry Mason. Again, Perry Mason, famous crime character. I've not actually got any of the books, nor have I read them, and I thought this was a nice addition. Again, it's 1960s. Penguin, the crime books are all green. Lots of them had great cover art. I've actually collected some of their 87th Precinct novels which had these similar kind of almost semi-abstract covers, so couldn't resist that. And I think it's good. Normally it says Penguin Crime and it says Penguin Perry Mason. Nice little detail. Yeah, okay. Another Penguin Crime that is in almost like new condition despite being from the 1960s. John Dickson Carr, another crime writer I know by name, never knowingly read any. I'd be surprised if I haven't seen a film adaptation of something that he's written. But Detective Superintendent John Cheviot is your man there. So yeah, 3 and 6 that originally cost. That would be 17.5 pennies in today's money. So Fire Burn by John Dickson Carr. Still with the crime, but changing publishers to Pan and Agatha Christie. The Mysterious Affair at Styles, which I just love this painted cover with this sort of assemblage of objects. Picture of Hercule Poirot there, and it is, as it says, it's the first Poirot case, so it'd be a good place to start. I think Groz has read this. This is the one he read on the GKBC channel, so I did say I'd read it at some point. And to me, this is the ideal, it's like my ideal book really, in that it's got sort of vintage coolness, but it's not so old that you need to keep it in a bank vault, and it's not something like a folio edition where, you know, you'd have a butler turning the pages for you because it's so fancy. It's kind of disposable paperback, and yet now, after all this time, it seems like a fabulous antique. So yeah, a Pan, Mysterious Affair at Styles. And Nevil Shute. So, used to be a hugely popular author. I guess I'm anticipating it's kind of thrillerish, but sort of middlebrow fiction really. Here we go. It says on the back, in huge, rather shouty letters, here is a war novel which is direct, simple, wholly free from highfalutin nonsense, and entirely charming. Said the Daily Mail. I'm wondering now, what were the highfalutin nonsense war books that they're sort of reacting against? Powerfully dramatic in its theme, Landfall is full of the suspense, excitement and romance that characterise all of Nevil Shute's brilliant bestsellers. Okay, and I love the cover, the graphics, the colours, the painting, basically everything about it as a thing. So yes, Nevil Shute. And finally in that little set, Witchfinder General by Ronald Bassett. The words have flames in them. Your sign of quality in any reading experience, when the words either are flames or, as these letters do, show us, reveal flames to us. So Witchfinder General, with a film still on the front, a film still on the back. Vincent Price, Ian Ogilvy, Rupert David, Wilfred Bramble star in the new Tygon British film with Patrick Wymark as Oliver Cromwell. So it sort of looks like a novelisation, and yet looking at when it came out, I think it actually did precede the film. You know, novelisations would sometimes pretend that they were like real books that had been adapted, so you'd get some novelisation that's been dashed out by some crazed hack over a long weekend, and then they'd publish it with soon to be an MGM movie on the front. But this seems to have been, I don't know, maybe it's a book first, not sure. It is a vivid, colourful and brutal novel based on the life of Matthew Hopkins, one of the most vicious Englishmen who ever lived. You must therefore buy this book. Cavaliers, Roundheads, yeah, Hopkins, self-appointed Witchfinder General, wages a savage war against the helpless under the pretext they are servants of Satan. So, yes, interesting. Witchfinder General. So that was that little haul, and yesterday I was walking through a town I'd never been to before, found a bookshop called The Book Den, which is a charity shop, but it only does books, which is fantastic. And it was a really, really great shop. I couldn't find anything I was obsessed with buying, but I did feel that they should be rewarded for their brilliance. So from their shelf of what they called elderly books, bought Susan Rushes In.
Hooray!
Published by the Children's Press. Yes, Susan Rushes In. Again, cover, colours, and as you might gather from the reaction, Dr. Jenny knows these books. She read the Susan series by Jane Shaw as a young doctor. So yes,
Doctor in embryo.
there was there was a whole bunch of them. I think this was late 50s. They went on into the 60s. Children's press, so it's a form of pulp really, in that they're printed on pulp paper. There's lots of children's books of the time printed on this kind of thick, almost like blotting paper stuff. And I'm reliably assured by Dr. Jenny that these were sold in places like newsagents and toy shops.
They were indeed.
So yeah, sort of widely available to the girls who get this many books and the boys who get this many books. Just to see, this is where the symbolic order is forged. Girls are interested in holidays, schools, ponies, farms, being a guide, and adventures, such as the ones Susan has in this. Boys are interested in Cherokees, pirates, V2 rockets, one called The Forbidden Study.
Oh my lord.
I wouldn't let young boys into starting on The Forbidden Study, but The Forbidden Study by Hilton Cleaver. The Yellow Raiders, Metal Dives Deep. Yes, so basically sort of a more martial offering for the male sex. But I actually started reading it and it's really good. One thing that's interesting about it is the family of kids who are like the heroes live next door to another family who are the antagonists, and that family, the Gascoignes, nicknamed the Ghastly Gascoignes, are kind of arty intellectual types. So there's lots of digs at things like modern art and sort of avant-garde theatre and the sorts of things that the enemy are interested in. So anyway, I'm enjoying it. So. That is some things I've bought on the road that I thought I'd tell you about. I'm going to try and upload it from here in the motel room using shonky motel Wi-Fi, so we'll see how that goes. That's all I've got. See you soon when I'm back in the more familiar environs of home. Thanks for watching. Great to see everybody. Bye.